2, 1.
The SFDF is a blank firing grenade. Pin will be ejected, and now it's live.
I cut the tape. Kira's going to sort of look that. You dead? What is going on, guys, and welcome back. Now today we are looking at a new to me product once again. This product has been out a little while, and it's a new generation of a product I have reviewed on this channel once before. Now, you've probably seen from the thumbnail already that we are talking about the SFDF. Now, we're not actually talking about the original one that I have here. This is one that I reviewed back in 2021. Since then, this has been my go-to grenade in terms of impacts. Since that time, it's been used for a very long time since. Unfortunately, late last year, I actually had it stolen at a game site. You might be asking, why have I got this one then? Well, that is because the guys over at Fife Wargames have helped me out, so I can make videos for you guys. Now, I'm not here to talk about the standard SFDF. Like I say, this thing has been perfect for me. I very rarely had misfires. The only misfires I ever had were due to dull blanks. Trying them in different grenades, they still didn't go off. So this has been one of the only grenades that I have had absolutely no misfires with. But we're not here to talk about this one. We are here to talk about its newer brother. This is the SFDF LE.
I threw the knife behind you.
Go. Not far enough.
You have a chance to push up there and come round.
2 dead. No, the 2 who were just inside the doorway. Yeah, that man. There's a guy down there in that.
This is the SFDF LE. It's the SFDF for the law enforcement, basically. That is as simple as the name is. We're still rolling with the SFDF thing because I think it works out really well. But they've made a few changes for this. I was one of the first few people to be lucky enough to actually be able to test the original one, and they actually listened to my feedback. They made a few little changes that mean this is even better than the last one. What we're going to do, we're going to go through exactly why that is, and we're going to do a bit of a drop test again, just to see if it's lost any sensitivity to the previous version. So starting off between the two, the first thing that you'll notice is it's significantly longer. Okay, the original comes in at 115 millimeters. The new one comes in at 140. That is including the levers on both. So it's a little bit longer, which at first I wasn't really that for, but actually having gamed this quite a few times, it fits in the hand that bit nicer, and it's just overall easier to deploy. Unfortunately, with the extra length does come a bit of extra weight. Now, I've weighed both of these separately, and the standard SFDF comes in at 526 grams, while the LE model comes in at 596. So you are gaining about 73 grams worth of weight. To be honest, for the extra size, you don't really notice, to be truthful. It's purely the size that will be the biggest thing that you notice about these. So how do these differ? Now, as I said in the previous video, if you've not seen that, go check that one out, because I'm not going to be doing completely all the same sort of stuff that I did in that previous video, but we're going to be talking about exactly why this is good, why you should have one, and what makes this different to a Quake, a SWAT, anything like that when it comes to impacts. Why is this one that much better? Now, this is down to the Kinetic trigger system. What that means is, when you disable all of the safety features on this device, the firing pin is under sprung-loaded tension. Now, differing from the Quake, for instance, that'll be the one I'll refer to most. With the Quake, you have the bobble head on top, and that is sprung-loaded, and when it hits the ground, that comes down, it moves, call it a firing plate, moves that, which fires the pin down into the primer, the round, whatever it is you've got in it, depending on your grenade. This one differs because the firing pin is already under tension. Now that firing pin is being held back, and the way it works is when it hits the ground, it again knocks a little firing plate, and that then causes it to fire the firing pin down into the round. That then, instead of using the kinetic energy from the head moving to fire down into the pin, it uses the sprung-loaded tension. Now, in the old system, you did get 2 different springs. In this one, I only received the 1. But so far, I have found with 209s, you don't really need a more sensitive spring, but we will have a closer look at that in a bit. So, exactly like the last one, you have multiple safety devices on this. It's one of the safest grenades I've ever come across. The holster. Now, you don't have to use the holster is additional costs, but it actually comes fitted with 2 safeties. Now, the first safety being the safety ejection lever pin. Okay, with this, they have now drilled a small little dimple into the top of the pin, and the thing that's good about that is it means that when you've come to use it, you can actually use this as a resetting tool. They've basically taken the standard resetting tool, shrunk it down to a miniature size, and it means that you can insert that, reset the device without needing to carry the tool around. Secondly, what they've done, which is exactly the same as the previous version, is you have the deployable locks on this system. So I'm not going to put it in just yet, but basically when you put it in, when you close it back, it locks down like that, okay? Meaning that the device cannot be pulled out without pulling the 2 levers either side. It flicks open, you can deploy it. Now, when that's flicked down, there is an additional safety guard, okay? So that will physically stop you being able to push both of those, meaning that the device cannot be deployed unintentionally, meaning that if you are ready to deploy it, or you're going into a scenario where you might need it, you can flick that guard off, and then when you come to squeeze both paddles, it just pops straight open, no problem at all. Now, there is a reason that the law enforcement have taken this one into their arsenal as a training grenade, and to be honest, you could actually use these as a actual diversional flashbang, because they have changed the rounds that this can take. Now, if we have a quick look at the standard SFDF, when you unscrew the base, you are met by a solid block of stainless steel. Inside that, you have a space for a 209. Now, the difference with this one is going to the new version. When you unscrew it, the whole base design has changed. So instead, you now have a much longer base. Again, still got the 209 at the end, but it's actually an insert. So, in theory, you can take it out. You could use a different insert and fire whatever you want. When you get these though, it will standardly become in pinned, meaning that you can only use it on 209. Now, I've not given you this advice, but you can change this, and you can change it to fire basically whatever you want. The way that you do this is on this one, just there. So this one's had the pin drilled out. If you can locate where that pinhole is, you could drill it out, and it then just simply pops out. It's held in with an O-ring, quite a good machined little component. It just sits like this, and then that sits in the main body. So now that we talked about the base, let's look at what's actually different to the grenade. Exactly the same as in the holster. The safety pin has been changed again. Exactly the same same component. Now, one thing I have noticed is that when you've got it attached to the ring, you can't actually get it in far enough into the housing to be able to reset it. With the safety pin out of the way, normally this would be ready to deploy, apart from the fact that we still get the secondary safety pin. Now, this would be used more really for storage or for actually prepping devices. Along with this as well, they have changed the base design. Now, this is so that everything vents downwards and away from the grenade, and they've added a little we'll call it a little nub. It's a raised pin with a thread on the bottom. Now, this actually is one of those really little things that you don't realize is super useful until you've got it. What that is for is it's designed to help stop the grenade rolling. Now, one of the reasons I managed to lose a grenade earlier or in last year was because when it went through a doorway, it rolled, and it just rolled to a point in which I couldn't see it anymore. By the time I then went in to retrieve it, someone had picked it up and it had gone. With this, I don't believe that would have happened, because it's not going to stop it rolling altogether. But in a comparison test with one that doesn't have the anti-roll pin in, this will stop significantly shorter in distance than the other one. Finally, one of the main body features that are different between these two is firstly they have changed the color of the internal firing part. That's not that important, but what is important is the way that you'll know if the grenade has fired. Personally, they have fixed something that I had a bit of a problem with, but in doing so, they have also made it in which it's got a slight con. When the grenade is led on its side, you can tell that one has been fired, but you can't tell that the new version has been fired. The reason for that is they've changed the way the internals work. Although you still have the kinetic trigger, you can't see the difference in that plunger. Now, this is a bit of a con, but at the same time they've done it for a good reason, and I think the good reason is actually quite valid. Now, on the old device, when you have fired the device, you know, it freely moves on top, just like this. Now, when you go to reinsert the safety lever, say you've thrown it out in the field and you want to be able to just put everything together, put it back in the holster so you're not going to lose anything. What you might not be able to see, but I'll see if I can get it for you guys, is inside this little hole, the firing assembly moves down. Now, when it fires, it goes off and it's not able to reset. When it's in the arm state, you are able to slide this pin into the firing assembly and it will meet all the way up, and it allows the lever to go all the way into the body. When this fires off, not only does this sit a bit lower, which you can overcome by just lifting it up and sliding the lever on, but you no longer can get the lever all the way in against the body. Although it looks like it in the picture, that's because the pin's slightly set down. But there is definitely a gap. And the biggest issue with that is you cannot put the safety pin back through the hole. The hole is now partially blocked. So, I feel like they've looked at this and they've gone, how can we improve it? So, taking one of the new levers, what you'll notice is this has been fired. Okay? But the firing assembly, now in red, has returned back to the top. Okay? So, if I set it off, hopefully you can see the firing assembly moving down, but then it resets itself and this comes back to the top. This is the reason why it doesn't jingle about anymore. But what it means is you can put your safety lever back on, put the safety pin back on, and store it all so it's together so you're not going to lose any parts. Another con with the newer style is the price. I'm not going to beat around the bush. The old SFDF was expensive. You know, the old one was around the £125 mark. These new ones are a little bit more, okay? They come in around the 150, 160 mark. That is because there's so much more technology that's gone into them. They become you know, just as reliable as they were, except they've added these features that just make it that bit more ergonomic. Overall though, I've loved using this in the few games that I've tried, and I've had no issues. I was also lucky enough to get hold of a couple of mag flashes so that you can see the effects with these. And in a minute I'll tear this down so you guys can see exactly how it goes together, and also it allows you guys to do basic maintenance on them. Overall, they don't really need any maintenance. Just give it a clean out every now and again, because if you're using any sort of big rounds, even if you're using the 209 primers, it's worth cleaning these out quite regularly just to make sure that they're always going to work. The last thing you want is for it to misfire because you've left it dirty. So let's have a quick look at tearing these down, and then we'll jump into the drop testing. The main device is obviously the thing that you're going to want to keep clean, make sure it's working all the time. So first of all, with the base removed, remove the firing pin. You're then going to want to set the device off, just so it loses any tension. Next, you're going to want to take a 5mm spanner. I don't actually have one, so I'm going to just use an adjustable, and put it on there and loosen up the anti-roll pin. That just unscrews like so. That can go up there. And on most devices, it won't be done up too tight, so you should be able to just unscrew that ring. If yours is done up really tight, you could use a set of long nose, needle nose pliers, so just put in those two and then twist the ring off. The ring should come out nice and easy. Again, I'd apply a small dot of grease just to the threads, just so it goes in and out really nicely. Next, you have the trigger assembly. Now, I've lubed mine up, which is why they're stuck together. Yours usually wouldn't come out like that. You'd have to take it out in 2 pieces, but I just put a few drops of oil on that surface. And basically the way this works is when it goes down, it hits the knocker, which then when that hits the now red surface, it causes this piece to fire down. You can then simply tip it up and you get your spring and your firing pin. Now, you want to make sure these are clean, make sure they're greased up. One thing that you're definitely going to notice if you had the old style SFDF is this spring is significantly longer. Now, the reason for that is that is what causes the fire assembly to self-reset. To reassemble, it's just exactly the opposite of what we've just done. Don't drop your spring like I just did. What I'd probably recommend is actually doing it upside down. The reason for that is because it's easier to get that firing pin in than it is to line up the spring with the center. So you can just turn up the middle, line up the firing pin with the hole it's got to go into, and once it's inserted that far, you can flip it up the other way and it's good to go. Like I say, a small dot of oil on there. I use oil on that rather than grease, just because it spreads that bit better. And then you can simply do it back up. I just do it up so it's hand tight, so I can get it apart if I ever need to, and then screw in the anti-roll pin. What we're going to do is we're going to do a realistic underarm throw just in front to where that shadow is. So this is from normal deployable height, okay? There you go. But what we're going to do is we're going to aim for just down here, okay? Now, from Torque, it recommends a throw height of at least 20 inches onto soft ground, okay? In terms of height, it's just sort of somewhere up your thigh, you know, above knee, below hip sort of thing. So we're just going to do a real gentle underarm throw and see how it goes. Still went off. Unfortunately, the 9mm I do have are a bit unreliable in all the grenades that I have, but we're going to give it a go just onto this patch of grass just here. Still went off. Right, so previously we did the drop test in a slightly different location, but what we're going to do is we're going to actually test a few different things. So first of all, we're going to be using the 209 primers again. This is actually going to be a lever off scenario, just to give it its fairest chance at going off. Now the manual says it will go off at 4 inches. So 4 inches is about 100 mil. So that little red marking at the bottom, which is really, it's nothing. So we managed to get the other one at 2. For purposes here, we're going to do a vertical drop. We'll also test right down to 2 inches because that's what the last one managed to achieve. So let's see how we get on. So that went off at 4 inches, no problem. 2 inches. Again, still goes off at 2 inches from the ground. That's absolutely incredible. This is why you get these grenades. They're so good. We're going to try a 4-inch side drop now. It's worth noting, guys, that if you are doing a lot of this testing, wear ear pro. You'll thank me later. We're going to do the 9mm drop test. About 5 inches. Overall, these are absolutely wicked grenades. They are both amazing bits of kit, and I've met a lot of you guys out there that have bought one. Overall, I don't think you'll be disappointed. And again, if you'd like to feel more army, as I stated in the original, these are by far one of the most realistic grenades that you guys can get hold of. If you guys are interested as well, you can actually save a little bit of money with Fife Wargames by using the code below. Overall, guys, I hope this has been a really useful video for you. Until next time, guys, I will see you here again soon.